So I just got an iced coffee and oh my god, it is like the sweetest thing in the whole entire world. I have no idea how people can drink this. The almond milk macchiato, iced macchiato. Oh my god, like I feel like I'm literally drinking sugar. Okay, enough. Let's just get to books. Okay, so like a minute pause before I start talking about books, but I previously said that this coffee was super sweet and I can't believe how people drink it, but I forgot to mix it. I didn't realize that you had to mix the coffee. So yeah, so cheers, So welcome friends back to my channel. My name is Maria and today we're talking about books and drinking coffee as usual. Just selecting any one that I have not tried yet because I'm not a coffee drinker, so it's practically every coffee on the menu. So today I wanted to just specifically talk about and kind of give my review and what I thought about The Sundown Motel, which is written by Simone St. James. The book is a mystery thriller. I would also categorize it as horror. Yes, horror, because it felt so real. It actually spooked me at times. There were like a lot of ghosts and stuff, and you were just kind of like nervous for the characters and like what's gonna happen to Viv or Carly. There were like ghosts appearing and like you were just like nervous altogether, you know, you weren't like quite sure what is about to happen. So in general, this book, I like practically inhaled it. Of course it took me like about 2 days to read it, maybe a day and a half, but it's because, you know, I had to sleep, eat, you know, go to work. So if not for that, if it was just like a regular weekend, I probably would have read the book in like 5 hours. I was just like completely like into it, like obsessed with it. I just couldn't put it down. I would just say like I read it right before I went to bed. That first night as I was reading it because I just couldn't put it down. And I would not recommend that because I honestly was scared. Like I was reading those chapters specifically where like there were like ghosts and Viv was seeing like stuff and she wasn't sure what it was, or like she just felt like a presence there but she couldn't see what it was and she didn't really understand what was going on. So it was like this like science fiction stuff going on, you know, like something that we can't really explain out in this world. And I was honestly like shaking and I kept like hearing sounds in my house. I'm like, oh my god, what was that? And I couldn't fall asleep at night. I was actually like really scared. So don't do that. If you're one of these people like me, don't read it right before you go to bed. So without a doubt, I gave this book a 5 stars. And I just wanted to also mention that this book like kind of goes back and forth between the timelines, so 1982 and 2017. So Viv was the one, is Carly's aunt, and she had disappeared and nobody knew where she went. And Carly is her niece, and she never met Viv because she disappeared before Carly was born. So Carly wanted to find out what happened to Viv, and she goes on this adventure and practically like follows Viv's footsteps to find out what happened and to her. So there's like a jump between the timelines, the years, but I know I had previously mentioned in my 2020 favorites book review that sometimes it's hard to follow when that happens. I know I read a book called Valentine. It was also jumping back and forth between like characters and the timelines, and that one was really hard to follow because it wasn't like in a linear pattern. It just felt like it was just like, oh, let's read about this part, okay, let's read about that part, and I never felt like the parts like really super joined together like really well. But in this book, and I know I mentioned The Vanishing Half also was jumping back and forth, really worked well here. So it wasn't like we were at one part with Viv and then immediately we're like at a different step with Carly, but it was kind of like almost that thing that was happening to Viv in 1982, Carly was like somehow uncovering it in her like 2017 like timeline. So and then like in the end it all like came together, so it was like 2 moving pieces coming together. that was like just like super well how it was done. I think that's what made it like 5 stars, and it never just like cut off at a chapter and you like weren't sure what happened to the character. There was almost like an answer in the next chapter following the other character's timeline. I mean, the ending is absolutely insane. Like, I was definitely not expecting it. There were like so many twists and turns there. I would just say keep reading it, do not put it down. I mean, I'm not surprised that this book was highly rated in the Goodreads Choice Awards for the books. I practically picked it up because of that, because it had really high ratings. It was released basically a year ago, February 2020. As this year I'm trying to read more books that are new released, and I've noticed so far the books that I read, I will do a video for the review of my January books in a couple weeks. But I've noticed I've been reading a lot of the 2020 or 2021 books just to see like what the trends are, and oddly like a lot of the books that I have rated so far are like 5 stars. So I don't know if it's just me having completely like okay, whatever, this works, or the books are actually really good. So I guess it's a goal to, you know, read all the books that you enjoy and not to just drop any book that you're reading. So Sundown Motel is definitely that book that you want to read. So another thing that I wanted to mention about the book is that I actually, so in the book, as we're following Viv and Carly as they're uncovering and interacting with the other characters, you never kind of felt like they were making these like stupid mistakes. Like, you know how you're watching like a horror movie and the character like can like run out the front door, but instead they decide to like run upstairs, you know, and hide. Like, you could just run out of the house. But that's not how it was in the book. It felt like everything that they were doing and everything that they were uncovering, they were like using this strategy, and they were like smart about it. There was no like dumb movements that they were taking, so it didn't like make them seem like they didn't know what was going on. So I think that's very important. It didn't make them like, they didn't make like a typical horror book, you know, where like, oh, why is the character like doing that and not that? You weren't ever like, oh my god, no, don't do that, don't do that. I guess in a way you kind of want that to happen in a horror movie, like, or a horror book, where you're kind of nervous for the character. I mean, I was nervous for the characters, but in a good way. I wasn't like, I thought like they were making like really bad mistakes. So that's really good. And honestly, like, overall, I really am still thinking about this book, and I read it about 2 weeks ago, I would say. So I mean, that's a good sign that the book is really good. It's the same thing that happened to me when I read Harry Potter. Like, I still think about it, about the story, about the plot. I like to rethink about it. Maybe I missed something and like it's so fresh on my mind, so I like to have it set in my head for a couple days to just like think over the plot and what I just read. I mean, in general, like, it almost felt like I was at Sundown Motel. Like, was I really there? And I kind of want to see, like, maybe there's a hotel that actually exists like this, you know? I feel like there probably is, because there's so many, like, creepy motels that you pass by as you're driving on the highway, you know, in the middle of nowhere. So pretty sure stuff like that could probably happen in real life. So it's like super creepy. Like, you could be like, oh my god, I don't know. I like, honestly, like, as I was reading this, I felt like I actually was at the hotel and I was experiencing and seeing everything that the characters were. So yeah, so overall, to sum up, definitely a 5 out of 5 stars. I feel like it would be nice to have like a TV show. I don't know if they would ever do that. I have not read anything about it, but maybe a movie. I'm really excited to check out other books by Simone St. James to see if there's other books that I would enjoy reading from her. But this is definitely my most favorite thriller mystery book that I have ever read my whole probably life. Yeah, so thank you for joining me here today for some coffee breaks, for some coffee and some books. And we just talked about Sundown Motel. Let me know if you read it. If you did, what do you think about it? And I will see you next time. Bye.